And again, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Chair White, so you've heard all the stories in the paper and in the news. Can you tell us, are the markets rigged?
The markets are not rigged. The U.S. markets are the strongest and most reliable in the world. That is, that's not to say they're perfect, and obviously one of our continuing high priorities is to increase market quality.
So, just following along that line, I don't know if you've read it or not, but if you have seen stories on it, was there any factual or substantive information in those reports and in Michael Lewis's book that was new to you or new to the SEC? I mean, or has your agency basically known that information, I'll say, for years?
I'm not in a position to give a book review on it, but clearly the issues with respect to the greater speed in our markets, including those obviously employed by high-frequency traders, are issues that have been discussed for years, examined for years. We are obviously dealing with a marketplace that has changed dramatically over the last decade and last 5 or 6 years, continuously evolves. I mean, one thing I think is important to keep in mind is when you say high-frequency traders, which is where most of the discussion has occurred lately, that's not a single phenomenon. As our new Midas website that's been alluded to makes very clear, they're very different kinds of strategies and approaches that are used by high-frequency traders. But these are issues that our experts in trading and markets and the Commission more broadly have been focused on really continuously as the market has developed.
Okay, and so part of that, I'll say the allegation deals with the issue of what you call inside information. So if there is a market impact because of a publicly executed trade, which is what trades are, is it using inside information to adjust your trade or your bid and offer across the market because of that executed trade?
Well, it's a... If we're talking about the legal concept of that, at least as I understand your question, it's not, as I understand the question and as it's been described, it is not unlawful insider trading. I mean, it's essentially, I think there's been some confusion too between, do you have earlier access to order information, that is to say what the order is, versus, can you more quickly react to executing based on that public information. I think then there's been confusion about that.
Yeah, and that sort of segues somewhat into the last question on this. So does the use of what you call exchange data feed, right, which is approved by the SEC, to make changes to your bids, does that constitute insider trading?
I mean, if properly used, no.
Right. So, going along, changing off topics here to what the chairman was talking about, with regard to FSOC and asset management and SIFI designation. If you look at a series of recent actions taken by FSOC, and I'm going to run down, and the banking regulators, there seems to be a pattern here. First, you have FSOC intervene on money market fund reform. Next, you have the OFR release, which I talked about before, in a much maligned asset management report. Then you had banking regulators put forth a liquidity coverage ratio, LCR, proposal that basically ignores the SEC's existing liquidity regime. And next, you had FSOC announce it is hosting an upcoming conference on systemic risk posed by, of all things, asset managers. And finally, last week, there were reports that 2 asset managers advanced to FSOC's second stage of SIFI review. And so in all these cases, you have banking regulator-dominated entities proposing what I would call prudential-like regulation and potentially extending their taxpayer safety net, which means all of us potentially can be on the hook, and then therefore the subsidies on what? On security products and the firms. And so as you can tell, I'm concerned about this. So as the head of the agency with expertise in this area and with authority in this area, you're concerned about it as well?
Well, I'm very concerned. I mean, I think we have to distinguish too between FSOC's duties, authorities, most of which I think encompass the data points you just mentioned, and then separately to some extent the Fed's powers by virtue of the Bank Holding Company Act that touch on these issues, for example, the liquidity ratio regime. It's extraordinarily important for FSOC, which is charged under the statute for identifying systemic risks and addressing them within their authorities that they obviously carry that out.
But why would we want to extend the taxpayer's subsidy and bailout safety net to capital markets and asset management?
I'm not suggesting for a moment that we should do that. But what I do think is very important is for FSOC, as it carries out the duties given to it, that it has the expertise, listens to the expertise at the table, as well as drawing on external sources of expertise, particularly when FSOC gets beyond a banking regulated space.
Yeah, I saw that gavel coming, so